A lot of why these pop-up experiences have become so lackluster, from a catering point of view to a venue point of view to a goodie bag point of view, is because now it's become about selling social currency than actually forming meaningful relationships between creators, brands, you name it. I remember when people were mad that Darren Camphor sold out, quote unquote, sold out when he joined the MK, even though he has explicitly said and listed their problematic points of views, including homophobia. Why in tatwa how analyst sofa ya hae and you guys have to sit on the floor? Why when he comes back from work, TV ka hae until everyone goes to sleep? And that's so crazy because people who were raised. Good afternoon, my big stars. It's me, the brightest star, Lethabo Maluke, the host of your favorite podcast, Young, Popular, and what? Opinionated. In the words of the artist Dean Hudson, this podcast is a soft space for hard conversations. And today's conversation is particularly hard. I know last time we saw each other, I said, let's focus on the softer ones. Let's leave the hard ones for a minute. But guys, we are back like we never left, back like back like the recession. Because this conversation today is centered around people who start and lead our conversations, the activists. And no, this is not me necessarily dogpiling on them, but I think it's worthy to critique the spaces I'm in, the spaces that you guys want to find yourselves in, and the spaces that you guys support and the people that you guys support. Just saying. So, last Saturday, I had the privilege of going to a documentary screening of a film called Mother City. And this film essentially follows the story of the Reclaim the City movement led by an activist who goes by Faze. And for those of you that don't know, Cape Town is going through a housing crisis, right? We all know this. But the documentary revealed to me that this has been going on for way longer than a decade. And if you've been active on social media, because I think I came into my consciousness about 2, 3 years ago, you would think that this has been happening for just a year, even less. But people have been fighting for the middle and lower class people of the Western Cape to have equal opportunity to get housing for a very long time. But what stuck out to me with this movement, because I mean, they occupied a nursing home, they occupied a hospital in Sea Point to make their point really stand. And I think even today, people are still occupying that space. Because when people lose out on housing, they get rehoused to a place that is so far from the city. Because we all know with gentrification, the whole purpose is to get middle and lower class people out of inner city housing. You know, they buy them out of the city, they make it inhabitable, financially at least. And we all know that the city relies on this people's labor. And if people are traveling 2 hours to go be domestic workers or minimum wage workers in the city, I can't believe how much they're scraping together to live. But without hopping on too much, what stuck me out from the occupation to them going to the mayor's house at 5 a.m. to make their point known, to them going straight to what's his name? Is it Dan Plato? That's his name, right? The DA guy. Is that it didn't take them long to mobilize. I mean, today they're sitting together saying, guys, we have to oppose this bill. By the end of the week, they're making their voice heard, they're protesting, they're demonstrating. But most importantly, they were disruptive and didn't ask for permission. Even though they were peaceful, they were still disruptive and effective. Which got me thinking about why protest culture with our current generation has simply never taken off. And it's because a lot of people structure these demonstrations, these marches, these movements like brand events. Excuse me, and I'm gonna explain that. So, something that I've been discussing a lot, and I'm gonna make a video about this on TikTok too, because, hey man, everyone needs to hear this. This is just a longer version of what I wanted to say, but I love to say it here first and then say it later on my page. But anyway, something that has been interesting as a person who's, I guess kind of gone to a few brand events here and there, is that sometimes it's very hard to discover what the objective of the event is, right? So sometimes when you see certain creators who vlog or share bits and pieces from an event, you ask yourself, was a sneaker being launched? Was a new beverage being launched? An alcoholic one? A non-alcoholic one? Is it an energy drink? Is it a clothing line? Is it a pop-up? Is it a premiere? A lot of the times you don't know what the actual hell was going on, but the question is, do the people who are showing you this event know what's going on either? I don't think so. Because a lot of why these pop-up experiences have become so lackluster, from a catering point of view to a venue point of view to a goodie bag point of view, is because now it's become about selling social currency than actually forming meaningful relationships between creators, brands, you name it, right? Or even using influencer marketing to push sales. Because when you think about influencer economies, now it's more about I can get in, not the brand sees value in me, vice versa. We build a relationship, therefore that's why we're collaborating. It's more about look at me, I can be chosen. Look at me, I can go to the event. I mean, we see a tweet every now and then saying, guys, how do I get into this event? How do I get into this event? But it's like, you're a fashion creator and you want to go to an event where they're launching a restaurant. Why? You make political commentary, but you want to go to the launch of a makeup brand. Why? Do you do get ready with me? Do you do story times while doing your makeup? Do you do like these creative makeup shoots? Are you a creative director? Why? Because you want the social currency of saying, I'm being invited. But now that asks me, what is the point? So now, with a lot of how these protests are being structured, is that people are left wondering, what is the objective? And I think activism becoming a niche has a lot to do with that. So Pride, Joburg Pride at least, is a perfect example of what I'm trying to convey. Pride started out as a protest. It started out as a march, right? But why is it that in 2025, Pride has a VIP section? How do you have a VIP section at a protest? And my friend Bethany and I have been speaking about how there's absolutely nothing wrong with marginalized people having a party. There's nothing wrong with a movement having a festival. Community, art, music, drinking, dancing, laughing sustained the greatest movements. When you think about Tsietsi Mashinini, every time there was a movement of sorts, there was a celebration at the end. You know, it's not bad for people who are fighting for a cause to celebrate. But let's be honest, guys. Too many celebrations, not enough causes. You guys are barely fighting for anything, celebrating. You know, I mean, one of my criticisms for Joburg Pride as an organization was, how many parties can they throw in a in a single lifetime? Like, how many times should we party? And I'm not accusing them of never having added value to queer people's lives, but it can't always be a party. Do you guys get what I'm saying? And so a lot of protests, let's move away from Joburg Pride for a moment, we'll come back. A lot of these protests, and I'm not going to say which ones I've been to because, hey, I don't want to get sued and I don't want your faves to get cancelled. It's this not the point of this. This is a discussion. But when you get to this protest, this demonstration, this march, we stand for hours in complete confusion. We don't know what we're doing for hours on end. The sun is hot. We're boiling. We're wearing black, wearing this. People are Uber eating in and out. People are taking selfies. People are vlogging. There are, brand banners and posters of brands who are led by abusers, are led by Zionists, are led by racists. And you're like, how are we disrupting anything if we're wanting to be co-signed by the very same type of people that are responsible for the demise of our nation? It's like, I'm so worried about whether or not someone is going to give me permission to protest, even though that very same person is an abuser. I mean, at this one protest I went to that I think was a success and was able to get a relevant member of parliament, a relevant member of political party to come and talk to us. And then people started shouting that the problem with why sex offenders list can't be public, the problem with why people will never acknowledge sexual assault as a serious crime is because it's in our parliament too. How many allegations of these things are living in our parliament? And when people sit there, they're like, no, guys, you can't say that in front of parliamentarians. So wait, we can't be disruptive in front of the people who are causing the demise of our nation. I mean, it's like at a protest for youth unemployment and you get the minister related to whatever relevant portfolio that you want. And then you're like, there's corruption in parliament. No, 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 you can't say that. So we have to organize our liberation from the comfort of our oppressors. That's not how life works. That's not how life works. And that's what I'm saying with the Reclaim the City movement is that they were not afraid to set up shacks in the parking lot outside that growth point, whatever. You know, they were not scared to go to a lecture that Helen Ziller was giving with signs to oppose the selling of the Tafelberg site for 135 million rand. They're not scared to directly oppose their oppressor. But we are too scared to do that. We want our liberation to make the people, killing us comfortable. And that's a problem. Now, here's the next thing. When you really think about the fact that there's no grand objective to these things, I also think about how people don't understand why there should be different activists for different causes. I think Women for Change is so incredible in advocating for women's and women issues only. And that's not true though, because men are included. Men love to say GBV is not women-based violence, but Women for Change is always advocating for the boy child. They're always advocating for men. Because men are at high risk of being R-worded by other men. Straight ones at that, right? And Youth Capital is a youth advocacy campaign that specifically combines research with policy change to fight against youth unemployment. Do you see? The organizations I just named, which I've worked with, have main objectives. But the problem with these activist spaces and why they don't have objectives is because they're not being led by actual activists, and that the people that you think are activists have never been activists to begin with, and that's a problem. Guys, I remember when the Voiceover Factory announced the nominations for the most revolutionary voice of the year. I was nominated, Amahle Kebane, Mkhetwa, Peter Creel, Zuleika Patel, and I think I'm forgetting one or two people, and I apologize for that. And we know who won, right? We know who won. This guy over here, me, won. And Amahle, we won together. But when the nominations were announced on TikTok, there was something very interesting going on in the comment section. People were like, I would have expected to see this one being nominated, that one being nominated. And shout out to the Voiceover Factory, because it was one of the first times I truly felt seen by an organization that is, keeping an eye on what I do. Because for the first time, it made me realize that I have a definite stance. A lot of the people that were being named in the comment section, guys, they're not activists. They're giving you summaries of the current news cycle. It's today's top stories, breaking news. That's what they do just on TikTok. And before I continue, that's not a bad thing, right? We need people who summarize the news to us because current affairs are inaccessible. I don't care if there are 150 billion news channels on TV. Some of them are biased. Some of them are being funded by Zionists, number one. Number two, the most depressing, the most heavy, the most hopeless things in the news cycle are also the most easily accessible because they seem as though they cannot be opposed. And even some of the things that involve government specifically being corrupt and, eating the food and taking it from poor Black people's tables, they make those news so complex that you don't understand what that means. I mean, people were up in arms about Cyril Ramaphosa saying, eat cake. The Mary Antoinette reference. People were up in arms for weeks because the average person could not comprehend why that was offensive. And that's a problem. If people in politics can say offensive things, but the average person can't even comprehend it, how will they ever oppose it? So I think people who do deliver summaries of the news cycle are very important. But guys, they are not activists. I remember when people were mad that Darren Camphor sold out, quote unquote, sold out when he joined the MK, even though he has explicitly said and listed their problematic points of views, including homophobia, including undertones of misogyny, and just how regressive their politics are. I was like, guys, are we really going to be mad at Darren? Was Darren Camphor ever an activist? I mean, yes, he's had stances like, this is wrong, this is right. But in my opinion, those are very easy to understand as wrong or right. He was giving you summaries of what's currently happening. He doesn't really have a definite stance or a grounding stance that makes his politics very permanent. So now I didn't see what he did as selling out in the slightest. He was never on anyone's side ever. He's giving you a summary. He's a book report, just saying. You know? And so a lot of the people that are being regarded as activists as it stands are doing that same thing. The activist economy is carried and sustained by people who are giving us reports. And we all know why. Brands do not like people who have definite stances on anything. And we know why. Number one, sometimes if someone like me, someone like anyone else really, who has definite stances on anything, partners with a certain brand, the question will be, hey, from the followers, babe, you called out racism last week, but if we look into the owner of this brand, they've said very racially terrible things. You know, they've said the K word. They've said black people are lazy. They've said black people are this. But you're working with a brand that is led by someone who believes in, or the media company that is delivering this opportunity to you has a history of not paying people, abusing people. You know, that campaign manager has sexual assault allegations. I mean, at that brand event, we also, how that campaign manager was inappropriately touching that influencer. Why are you working with them? So sometimes your fans will not call out the brand, but you and say, but why are you working? So brands do not want to align sometimes with people with a definite stance because they know they're harboring people that do those same things that you're against. But also, they're guilt, right? Them themselves are abusers. Like there's so many, guys, the influencer industry is filled with P. Diddy's, it's filled with R. Kelly's, it's filled with Chris Brown's, it's filled with them. And unfortunately, when you say GBV is wrong, rape is wrong, women should know their rights, women should read contracts, if women are feeling played, if women are feeling unsafe, they should talk to someone, they know very well that they exchange sexual favors for certain opportunities. They know very well that they might be underpaying you, that person, right? Just saying. Just saying. So when brands take these activists who are giving us summaries, they get to say, we have a definite stance without ever having one. Because if someone's been giving you summaries of this current news cycle time and time again, and a brand says, you see, we've partnered with this activist for this campaign, it seems like they're doing something for good when they haven't. What's this? Greenwashing, pinkwashing? Greenwashing is like when you pretend to be for the environment, right? Would pinkwashing be that like this, like we're aligned with a good cause? And guys, if pinkwashing is the wrong term to use, I apologize, but it's washing of some sort. Because then this brand gets to sell their shoes using this activist who's giving you summaries. And you see, guys, we support good people. Just saying, it's been an observation of mine for quite some time. And that's why when these activists, again, back to the marches, are busy, that's why when you get there, it's all about champagne, it's about habli, it's about sushi at a political demonstration. Do you not find that crazy? Do you guys not find that crazy? Do you guys not find that absolutely insane? Guys, it's something I've been thinking about for so long, and it's like, I think I don't want to make it about myself because I don't want things to sound like they're coming from a place of bitterness or resentment. Because, hey man, I understand how capitalism works. I'm not the only person feeling like this. I'm not the only person frustrated by this. I'm not the first. I'm not going to be the last. And I'm definitely not going to be the one who gets it the worst, right? But I remember going to this like brand event literally like 3 weeks ago, actually. And a girlie who was there was like, oh, we were like torn about inviting you because we feel like you're too radical. Like we've seen your fashion stuff. We know you can dress, you look nice, and we know like you're not just a commentator. We know you're a socialite, but we felt like you're too radical. And seeing how you're in the space, dancing, taking photos, doing interviews, just being relaxed has been a shock. And I'm like, did you guys think I was gonna come here and say panting HGBV at a fashion event? Ah, be serious. Like, time and place. Like, there's a time and place. But they're always on edge because they feel called out by people with they feel like, you know what? That's what I always say. That sometimes people get so defensive when some of these issues are brought to the front, not because you're wrong for bringing it up, but they feel like they've been caught in the act. They feel like they've been caught in 4K doing that whack shit. Just saying. Let me drink some water, guys. I need some water. And then and then something that kills me also about capitalism, right? Is that it's also created the scarcity mindset within influencer spaces. So you know how I often speak about how capitalism has made everyone our competitors and not our collaborators. In fact, I want to have an episode about how capitalism is actually killing dating because everyone is operating from a place of scarcity. And what I mean by that is, you know how there's this mentality that like you can't leave someone better than you found them, men or women or they, thems, right? Because capitalism has this idea that relationships are not supposed to be beneficial or that people aren't supposed to gain things from you simply for the sake of gaining them. You must suck up a resource. So I can't just like date someone because I want to. I must milk them for some sort of resource because, you know, under capitalism, everyone is stealing something from me, everyone is taking something from me. And it's like, that's not how life works. But anyway, in influencer spaces, there's kind of like this idea that if you're like denied an opportunity to come to an event or you're denied an opportunity for a campaign, that it automatically translates to you losing out on financial opportunities. And I have to tell you guys, that is not true. Some of the people that are letting you guys feel inferior because they're not letting you in their guest list, you're not good enough to be on their guest list, you're not good enough for this, they don't have money either. Like, like I hate to be that person, but they don't have the financial access that you guys think that they do. Something that's very interesting is that a lot of them don't have this buying power. Yes, brands are sponsoring, brands are co-signing, but a lot of people get butt hurt if someone won't let them into something because they think they're getting out, missing out on a bag. But guys, a lot of your campaign managers are just as broke as you, if not worse. There are people living barely four in apartments in the city, but going to these brand events is the only time they have power over you. Because you know, with capitalism, we all want a feeling of superiority, no matter how small it is, right? If I'm not winning in my bank account, I see my bank balance, it's -3, right? Or at work, my boss speaks to me like crap. You know, like often we speak about how black men who are like extremely abusive, right? Especially financially, how a lot of them, if you trace everywhere else in the world where they have power, they have none. You know how like, especially like, you know, peak apartheid, even now, a lot of black men are so abusive in the homes because at work he's a joke. At work he's here. In his social circles he's here. But at home he gets to be a king. That's why you guys eat one piece of meat and he eats three. Why in Tatwa how analyst sofa high and you guys have to sit on the floor? Why when he comes back from work, TV get high until everyone goes to sleep? And that's so crazy because people who were raised like that are doing it again. They're doing it to you guys in influencer spaces. They're doing it to you at work because they must have three pieces of chicken in adulthood because they were deprived of it as children. That's what I'm saying, guys. Now, Sometimes if I get ghosted by a brand, by a campaign manager, as hurtful as it can be, I'm like, at the end of the day, babe, sometimes they pick someone who's willing to do it for free. And that's another thing. Like, that's another thing, guys. Sometimes you think that you're losing out on these opportunities because you're not worth the money. No, 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 no. You said Utlo Yetsaka 10. They got someone who said, I'll do it for exposure. And that's the problem. Like, that's the problem. That's the problem. That's the problem. That's the problem. Like, I literally remember speaking about groupies, right? And I was like, something that fascinates me about the Johannesburg creative scene, not just influencer spaces, but creative scene as a whole, because that includes photographers, models, creative directors, people who are everyone. It intersects with the hospitality industry as well, is how so many people have built careers as groupies. Like if they were to go on LinkedIn and list their profession, it's groupie, right? And you guys probably like, what do you mean groupie? Like, do they follow someone? No, 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 no. There are people who have very big dreams in Joburg, right? To be the next big influencer, to be the next big photographer, to be the next big rapper. But sometimes they settle for access via someone who they think is already living in their desired reality. So someone will settle for getting into the VIP section of someone who's an upcoming rapper. If a photographer is like a high-end photographer, like he does waffles, mang, and we all know that if this photographer is booked, he also gets his own type of rider and he can bring 4+1s, whatever, right? 4 people along with him. They settle for being a sidekick to the photographer and settle for being in VIP sections with that person. And then in 10 years, when that photographer has elevated some more, that rapper has elevated some more, that director, that podcaster, that influencer keeps elevating, they'll see that in the last 10 years, all they've done is drink free champagne at events with them. And then they'll be like, oh, but I feel like this person has left me behind. I feel like they've left me in the dust. I feel like they've used me. I'm like, they didn't really do that. You settled for VIP. You settled for the section. Because the same people who give you attitude when you walk into an event, because I'm with guys, they go home, the fridge is empty. Like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, I'm actually so bored. Like, I'm actually very bored. I'm actually very bored of that. And it's this like mean girl energy that's roaming around in the creative scene in Joburg, especially because everyone wants to be a superstar. People have 7K on Twitter, but they get to an event, no one knows them. And no one cares. And so the only way for people to care is if what did I say? The chicken theory. I'm going to call it the drumstick theory. At home, you couldn't eat the drumstick and the drumstick and the thigh. Your father could get 3 pieces. So what do? You must get your 3 pieces at the event by being mean to everyone and making everyone, do you know who I am? Because no one knows who you are. So that's how you get your 3 pieces of chicken. By forcing the dominance. Guys, I clocked these spaces a long time ago. That's why I'm so bored. That's why, like, lately I've been hanging out in cafes and going to the movies because Limporile, like, hey guys, what are you doing? But anyway, that's not. Let's go back. Let's go back to another point, right? Why are celebrities not activists? So someone was also speaking about how, in the midst of all these conversations about how people are using their platforms, who use their platforms, how, who's enjoying their platform, why are celebrities quiet in all of this as it happens? Guys, there's a very simple answer. Certain celebrities are not relying on very small type of campaigns to get them paid, right? We all know that someone with 1 million followers does not have access to has a greater access to campaigns versus someone with 100,000, right? They get to use all of these big names, even international names, right? Whereas we see people are promoting networks, lotions, da 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 da, but they get these long-lasting brand ambassadorships. I mean, 2 girlies were called out for partnering with McD, you know, people were mad. I mean, a certain girlie was cooked for advertising the new iPhone because we know what's happening, right? In Congo. And so celebrities can never have a definite stance because I'm sorry, the bags that they get from partnering with really evil people are way bigger than you guys imagine. But also, a lot of celebrities are just as problematic. And I think with accessibility to fame, the veil has kind of like dropped. And we know that there are plenty of celebrities who are in cahoots with very corrupt officials as well. And when I say cahoots, it doesn't necessarily mean dating, sleeping. They have connections that get them to, start these businesses, property cheaper, avoiding tax, not being tax compliant, some of these venues. I mean, some of them are not even passing certain health standards. So, yeah, I've said a lot today. I've said a hell of a lot. And I hope you guys reflect and really internalize every word I just said. And if you're a campaign manager, a Joburg meanie, someone missing a drumstick, see you next week. Bye.